Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू assembled devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi from Texas, welcoming all the devotees to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. I thank all of you for attending this session. Please forgive me for interrupting your ecstatic chanting. I would like to read the 10 offenses to the holy name which are to be avoided, written by Srila Vyasadeva in Padma Puranam. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the name of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal or to be independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the order of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures in pursuance to the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be an imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activity karma kanda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. 10. To not have a complete faith in chanting of the holy name and to maintain material attachment even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to achieve the desired success of Krishna Prema. Once again, I thank everyone for joining today's Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. Let us move on to our next part of the session, which is Srimad Bhagavatam class. May I know who all joined this morning?
हरे कृष्ण विनीता गंधर्विका माता जी दंडवत प्रणाम। शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, गुरु महाराज की जय। प्रीतिदासी क्रमशाल। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna, Preeti Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining every day and giving your attendance first. Welcome to the call, Mataji. Happy Ekadasi to everyone. Hari Bol.
Happy Yogini Ekadasi to everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. This is Arvind Das from Chicago. Happy Ekadasi to everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Arvindaksha Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for joining and giving your association every day. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. And to all the assembled devotees, this is Megha from Naperville. Happy Ekadashi to everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Megha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining every day and chatting so beautifully. Hare Krishna, Happy Ekadasi.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Go ahead, Mataji.
Go ahead. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga and all assembled devotees. Yashamati from Chicago. Happy Ekadashi to everyone.
Hare Krishna, Yashamati Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining and giving your sweet association every day, early morning, mid morning, and chanting so nicely, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam to you and all Vaishnavas. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai. Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Gopika Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the call and giving your association. Thank you. And also, Mataji, waiting for your class today in the mid morning. Hare Krishna, is there anybody who would like to introduce themselves?
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Sister Devidasi from Mauritius, and Happy Ekadasi. But here in Mauritius, Happy Ekadasi to you all. But here in Mauritius, Ekadasi is tomorrow. So
Oh, okay.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, even in India it is tomorrow. In India it is tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, Harini Mataji, right? Hare Krishna, Harini Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to the call, Mataji. Happy Ekadasi to you in advance, Mataji. Hari Bol.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharika Mataji, this is Sukakar Krishnadas from Chennai. Ekadashi in Chennai is today only. Only Bangalore is tomorrow. Different places, different days just come. So wishing you all a very happy Yogini Ekadashi and thanks for...
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for joining and giving us
allowing me to come to
every
your
day.
group. It's a wonderful group. And so much of nectar comes every day. Thank you, Vinita Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the assembled devotees on the call. This is Anita from Sharjah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji. Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining and giving your restriction.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna to everyone. Happy Ekadashi. This is Manisha from Charlotte, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Manisha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to the call, Mataji. Thank you for joining every day.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, all glories to the assembled devotees. This is Shiromani Nandarani Devidasi. Thank you, Mataji. It's been like one canto I finished in Bhakti Sangha, Mataji.
Yeah.
Canto 5 started, I joined. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mataji, for your wonderful service.
Hare Krishna, Shiromani Nandarani Mataji. Yes, Mataji, we finished one canto just like that, right? That is the greatness of our skill. And now we are in the 6th canto on today's very auspicious day, and we are starting it today. Thank you, Mataji, for reminding us that we just finished like that. And you have been listening all 5th canto. We are very happy for you. And please continue us so we can finish together Bhagavatam. Welcome to the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharika Mataji. This is Kamudaki Dasi from Baltimore. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, and all the devotees. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Sorry for the more noise. It is the fan.
No worries, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Kamudaki Mataji. Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining and giving a recitation every day. Hari Bol.
Hari Mataji, Hari Bol Mataji, Hari Bol to all assembled devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to assembled devotees. Ekadashi तिथि की जय, माधव तिथि की जय, भक्ति जननी तिथि की जय, सभी वैष्णव भक्त वृंद की जय. हरि बोल. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम Ram Ram Hare Hare. I feel very obliged. Even I am not capable to stand all of you most superior devotees. But this is the mercy of Radha Govind, my Damodar, that I listen so good speakers, Mataji. So I feel very obliged, Mataji. Dhanyavad. Hare Krishna to all respected devotees.
Hare Krishna Puja Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Welcome to the call. Hare Krishna. So we'll start the recording. It's 6:20.
Yes, Mataji. Yes.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. Today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Balaram Shakti Prabhu to open our 6th canto, first chapter and first verse today. Happy Ekadasi to everyone. Before I hand over the call, I would request Raj Prabhu to give brief introduction.
Mataji, can we skip the
Yeah.
introduction?
Okay. Hare Krishna, Balaram Shakti Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your valuable time and association this morning, and happy Ekadasi to you. And we are starting the 6th canto, and I'm so happy, Prabhuji, you are doing 6th canto, first chapter, first verse. Please take over the call, Prabhu. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you very much. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pascharchitarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. It's a great honor to this opportunity to share Krishna Katha in this August assembly. Very, very sincere devotees. It's always a great pleasure and honor to come and share Krishna Katha here in the Association of Wonderful Devotees. Yeah, I remember fourth canto last verse I took just before the fifth canto started. So now fifth canto is over and I'm getting to start sixth canto. So sixth canto is such a it's almost like a reward for just I won't say tolerate, it would be definitely offensive, but the fifth canto, at least the later part, which speaks about cosmology, which of course Bhagavatam cosmology is also filled with lot of prayers and other such wonderful parts. So it's so pleasurable, but the sixth canto, more personal episodes start, and it's so pleasurable to discuss, and especially starting with the first section of Ajamil's pastime, very, very encouraging section, glories of the holy name. So we will start with the first verse. I will read the verse translation, then we'll read the purport, and we'll see what we can learn from this discussion. Shri Parikshit Uvacha Nivrittimarga-katita Adau Bhagavata Yata Kramayogopalabdhena Brahmana Yad Asamsritihi. So, translation by Shri Maharaj Parikshit said, O my Lord, O Shukadev Goswami, you have already described in the second canto the path of liberation, which is Nivritti Marga. By following that path, one is certainly elevated gradually to the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka, from which one is promoted to the spiritual world along with Lord Brahma. Thus, one's repetition of birth and death in the material world ceases. So, here, Shri Parikshit Maharaj has heard about the description of hellish planetary systems where people are punished for responding to their material desires in a way that is not so in a way that is inappropriate, and hence they go to hell and suffer. So Parikshit Maharaj said, well, my dear Shukadev Goswami, you did speak about even the yogis who have not conquered their material desires, but still get to escape this material world after having enjoyed in this material world. So is there a way that these people who are unable to overcome their material desires also get an auspicious destination? Why do they have to go to hell and suffer inauspiciously? Can they also not get an auspicious destination? Why should they be punished for their material desires? This is the question asked by Parikshit Maharaj is going to ask this question. He is just laying the foundation. Oh, you did speak in the second canto about the Nivritti Marga. Kramayogopalabdena. Kramayogopalabdena means by what's called as Krama Mukti. So we will discuss about it little later. So what about that? Why do people have to suffer this way? I'm feeling so compassionate hearing my heart is breaking seeing how people have to suffer in this way. So that's what Parikshit Maharaj is going to present. So Srila Prabhupada, in his purport, he describes, since Maharaj Parikshit was a Vaishnava, when he heard the description at the end of the fifth canto of the different hellish conditions of life, he was very much concerned with how to liberate the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya and take them back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, he reminded his spiritual master Shukadeva Goswami about the Nivritti Marga, or the path of liberation, which he had described in the second canto. So natural Vaishnava compassion. He is very deeply disturbed hearing the way in which the people have to suffer in hell. Maharaj Parikshit, who at the time of death was fortunate to have met Shukadeva Goswami, inquired from Shukadeva Goswami about the path of liberation at that crucial time. Shukadeva Goswami very much appreciated his question and congratulated him by saying, so at that time, the same question was asked by Parikshit Maharaj, what is the best practice for a person at all times in this material world so that he can achieve the highest destination? And he also asked, what is the best thing for, especially for a person at the time of death, what he should do, what he should not do, what he should hear, what he should not hear, what he should speak, what he should not speak, like that. And in response to that, Shukadeva Goswami appreciated his compassion, and not just compassion, even in a mood of compassion for answering a very relevant question. So he said, Variyan eshate prashnaha kruto loka hitam nripa atmavit sammata pumsam shrotavyadishu yapparaha. So he says, my dear king, your question is glorious. Variyan eshate prashnaha. Why is the question very good? Kruto loka hitam nripa. Kruto loka hitam, because it is very beneficial for all kinds of people. And this is not just my opinion. He says, Atmavit Sammataha. So he says it is approved by all the transcendentalists. This is not just opinion. All the transcendentalists would agree that this is the best question that could have been asked. And Pumsam Shrotavyadishu Yapparaha. The answer to this question is the prime subject matter for hearing. This is the prime subject matter for hearing. Okay. So, Srila Prabhupada continues. Parikshit Maharaj was astonished that the living entities in the conditional stage do not accept the path of liberation, that is devotional service, instead of suffering in so many hellish conditions. This is the symptom of a Vaishnava. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha. A Vaishnava is an ocean of mercy. Paradukka dukhi. He is unhappy because of the unhappiness of others. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaj, being compassionate towards the conditioned souls suffering in hellish life, suggested that Shukadeva Goswami continue describing the path of liberation, which he had explained in the beginning of Bhagavatam. Why don't you continue describing the path of liberation so that they get inspired to take up to that path, and why they should suffer in this hell? Now he says the word asamsriti is very important in this connection. Samsriti refers to continuing on the path of birth. Asamsriti, on the contrary, refers to nivritti marga, or the path of liberation, by which one's birth and death cease and one gradually progresses to Brahmaloka. Here Brahmaloka means Brahma Jyoti. Okay. Unless one is a pure devotee who does not care about going to the higher planetary systems, in which case one immediately returns home back to Godhead by executing devotional service. Tyaktva deham punarnaiti mameti swarjana. So Prabhupada speaks about the two types of liberation. For a mixed devotee, he goes to Brahmajyoti, and for a pure devotee, he goes to the abode of Krishna. So he says, Parikshit Maharaj therefore was very eager to hear from Shukadeva Goswami about the path of liberation for the conditioned soul. Then Prabhupada writes, according to the opinion of the Acharyas, the word Krama Yogopalabdena indicates that by first performing Karma Yoga and then Jnana Yoga and finally coming to the platform of Bhakti, one can be liberated. This is Krama Yogopalabdena. This is one explanation of Krama Yoga, he says. Bhakti Yoga, however, is so powerful that it does not depend on Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga. Bhakti Yoga itself is so powerful that even an impious man with no assets in Karma Yoga or an illiterate with no assets in Jnana Yoga can undoubtedly be elevated to the spiritual world if he simply adheres to Bhakti Yoga. So, well, in this whole yoga ladder, there is no bhakti is not a part of that ladder. So it starts with Sakama Karma Yoga, then Nishkama Karma Yoga, okay, and then there is Jnana Yoga, then there is Ashtanga Yoga, and then there is liberation. Okay, Ashtanga Yoga does not directly lead to bhakti. Okay, so bhakti is not dependent on a prior practice of either Sakama or Nishkama Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. So in that yoga ladder, directly bhakti does not come. Okay, so one should understand that bhakti is not dependent on a prior practice of any of these other yogas. That is why bhakti is ahaituki. So he says, Mame Vaishyasi Asamshaya. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 8.7 that by the process of bhakti yoga, one undoubtedly goes back to God, back home to the spiritual world. Yogis, however, instead of going directly to the spiritual world, sometimes want to see other planetary systems, and therefore they ascend to the planetary system where Lord Brahma lives, as indicated here by the word Brahmana. Okay, so the verse itself says, Krama Yogopalabdena Brahmana Yad Asamsritihi. Brahmana means along with Brahma. At the time of illusion, Lord Brahma, along with all the inhabitants of Brahmaloka, goes directly to the spiritual world. This is confirmed in the Vedas as follows. Brahmana sahate sarve samprapte pratisanchare parasyante kritatmanah pravishanti parampadam. So this is from, I think this is from Garuda Puran. Yeah. Because of their exalted position, those who are on Brahma at the time of dissolution go directly back home, back to Godhead, along with Lord Brahma. Okay. So, if you see in the purport, Srila Prabhupada initially appreciates Parikshit Maharaj for his compassion, Vaishnava compassion. So, the initial section is about Vaishnava compassion. Then later he speaks about Krama Yoga, and he gives two meanings for the word Krama Yoga. One is Krama Yoga, he says, he seems to suggest something like a yoga ladder. First practice Karma Yoga, then Jnana Yoga, then Ashtanga Yoga, like that. And then finally, if one accepts, then one attains liberation, like that. And then the second meaning of Krama Yoga is what Srila Prabhupada describes is Krama Mukti, which is described in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which Shukadev Swami, in his first conversation with Parikshit Maharaj, he had described. So there are many different topics that we could discuss in this particular verse, because a new canto is starting. So I thought it would be appropriate to understand this theme of how is the Bhagavatam divided, So I thought, we could speak on compassion, we could speak on many other topics, but I chose two topics to discuss, time willing and Krishna willing. I thought we could discuss on these two themes. First theme being the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we will discuss on very briefly. We are not going to go into detail of this. Very briefly, we will touch this and some how the exclusive brilliance of Srimad Bhagavatam in presenting these 10 topics, we will just briefly touch on this topic. So, We will first start with Srila Vishwanath, a part of the commentary to this first verse by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, because this is the beginning verse of the canto, he says, the fifth canto described sthana. Sthana. The 10 topics of Bhagavatam were described as Atra Sargo Visargasya Sthanam Poshanam Udaya Manvantaresha Anugata Nirodho Muktirashaya. These are the 10 topics. So sthana means the maintenance of the inhabitants of Bhuloka, Patala and the heavenly planets who are situated there with their rules. So sthanam means these various living entities who are qualified to stay in these various planetary systems, how they are maintained. That is sthanam. Right. The protection given to people who transgress the laws of dharma and the devotees is called as poshana by the wise. So this is the definition of poshanam. So poshanam is the fourth topic, fourth of the 10 topics. Atra sargo visargascha sthanam poshanam. What is poshanam? So poshanam means the protection given by the Supreme Lord to those people who transgress the laws of dharma and the protection that he bestows unto the devotees is called as poshanam by the wise. So the sixth canto discusses about poshanam primarily. Of course, Srila Jiva Goswami says that these 10 topics are spread out, in throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, one cannot ascribe a particular topic to one specific canto, which is true. But Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that you can ascribe topics to particular cantos because that canto predominantly discusses that topic. Well, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also agrees that these topics are spread out throughout the 10 cantos, but you still can attribute a particular title to a canto because of the predominance of the topic in the canto, right? So, sinful Ajamil is considered a devotee, and Indra, even though he was offensive to his guru, is also considered a devotee. So, to what extent the Lord can go to identify someone as a devotee and protect him and give special protection? Ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya mayite teshu chapyaham. Krishna says, but one who worships me, uh, you know, uh, I am very dear to him and he is very dear to me. And even though that person who worships Krishna may be as sinful as Ajamil, or he may sometimes even be an offender like Indra who offended Brihaspati, of course not very consciously, but in a moment of madness he offended Brihaspati, but later Krishna did protect him. Okay, so giving protection to Ajamil and Indra as well as Chitraketu in the 19 chapters of the 6th canto shows the Lord's affection for his devotee. The Lord's essentially Poshanam is how Krishna nourishes his devotees despite their low times, despite the times, even in the times when they are troubled by their anarthas and their weaknesses. And that is what is described in the 6th canto primarily. So 3 chapters tell the story of Ajamil, 6 chapters describe the Vishwaroop, 8 chapters describe the story of Vritrasur, and 2 chapters describe the birth of the Maruts, in which Indra observes Diti as she performs vows. So the first chapter describes the words of the servants of Yama when the servants of Vishnu come to rescue Ajamil. Very interesting episode is going to ensue. So this is a very brief summary of this canto, where Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that this speaks about Poshanam. So let us try to understand the 10 topics briefly. and see how in Bhagavatam these 10 topics are there and why they are there. And is there a difference in the way in which Bhagavatam describes these topics in comparison to the other scriptures which describe these 10 topics? Okay. So, in the second canto, 10th chapter, first verse, these 10 topics are described. Atra sargo visargascha sthanam poshanam utayah manvantareshanukata nirodho muktir asharaya. Sarga, first, visarga, second, sthanam is third topic, poshanam is fourth topic, uti is fifth topic, manvantara is sixth topic, ishanukata is seventh topic, nirodha is eighth topic, mukti is ninth topic, ashraya is the 10th topic. So these 10 are not the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam alone, but these 10 are the 10 topics of any Mahapuran. Of all the 18 Puranas, they discuss about these 10 topics, and including Srimad Bhagavatam. All these Puranas describe these 10 topics. But there is a speciality in which Bhagavatam describes these 10 topics, especially the other 9 topics. So it is mentioned, Dashamasya Vishuddhyar Navanam Iha Lakshanam Varnayanti Mahatmanah Shrutena Artena Cha Anjasa. Which is Mahatmanah Varnayanti Anjasa. The great devotees such as Vidura and Maitreya properly described Navanam Iha Lakshanam. These other 9 characteristics or these other 9 topics are described by Vidura and Maitreya. For what purpose? Dashamasya Vishuddhyartam. In order to impart the highest knowledge of the 10th topic. So the other 9 topics are presented in a way that we develop the perfect understanding and appreciation of the 10th topic, which is Krishna, discussed in the 10th canto. So how do they do it? Shrutena cha artena, through the words of the scripture and stories to illustrate their meaning. Through words of scriptures, through various stories, they describe the nine topics in such a way that the 10th topic is perfectly appreciated by the reader. So, therefore, it is like I give this example of okay, we will continue this topic little. How Bhagavatam describes the other 9 topics purely to glorify the 10th topic. We will see it little later. But before that, what are these 10 topics we will see? So he says, Bhuta Matra Indriya Dhyam Janma Sarga Udahrita Brahmano Guna Vaishamyan. This is the definition of Sarga. Okay. So what is Sarga? He says, Bhuta. Bhuta means the elements. Okay. So the material elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether. And matra refers to the tanmatras. Rupa, rasa, sparsha, gandha, shabda. The sense of touch, the sense of smell, the sense of sound, the sense of sight, all of that. That is tanmatras. Indriya are the karmendriyas and gyanendriyas. Dhyam refers to intelligence or false ego, you can say. Janma, how they are created. Sarga udahritaha. So creation of elements of this material world. Okay. So creation of that is called as sarga. And how does this sarga start? Brahmano guna vaishamyad. So when Lord Karanodakashayi Vishnu glances at Prakriti and agitates the 3 gunas, in Prakriti the gunas are inactive, in a supta avastha, in a sleeping state. when the Lord glances at Prakriti and impregnates that Prakriti with Kala, Karma and Swabhava. Kalat Gunavyatikaraha Parinamat Swabhavataha Karmano Janma Mahataha Purushadishtitadabhu. This is described in the second canto. How when the Lord blesses, the Lord impregnates the Prakriti with the Jivatmas and Kala Shakti, and how that Kala Shakti agitates the gunas, and when the gunas get agitated, then gradually the creation starts. That is described. That is Sarga. So Sarga means primary creation. So primary creation means creation of the places where the living entities can stay according to their karma and swabhava, according to what they deserve and what they desire. Karma indicates what they deserve, and swabhava, their nature, indicates what they desire. So according to their karma and swabhava, the various places in this material world are created primarily by first creating the raw materials for that creation, and subsequently those raw materials are combined together and a functional universe is created by both Karanodakasai Vishnu and Garbhodakasai Vishnu, and this process is called as Sarga. And Sarga is primarily described in second canto and third canto. So therefore the third canto is attributed to this topic of Sarga. And then what is Visarga? Second topic. So the first is Sarga. What is the second topic, Visarga? He says Visarga Paurusha Smritaha. So Visarga refers to Paurusha. Paurusha literally means creation of the jivas. But we know jivas are not created. As Krishna says, Natvevaham Jatunasham Natvam Neme Janadipa Nachaivana Bhavishyamah Sarve Vayam Ataparam. There was never a time when I did not exist. There was never a time when you did not exist. There was never a time when none of these kings ceased to exist, and there shall never be a time in future also when any of these things, any of us would cease to exist also. So the eternality of the soul is the first teaching of Bhagavad Gita. So Visarga Paurusha Smrita, even though literally when translated might mean creation of the jivas, but in reality what it means is creation of the bodies of the living entities, conditioned souls. And because the conditioned living entities identify with their bodies, in their language you can say that creation of the jivas. In reality it is not creation of the jivas, creation of the bodies. And which is Visarga Paurusha Smritaha, create bodies of the living entities, and this is the job of Brahma and the Prajapatis. Even though this is described in multiple cantos, primarily it is focused in the fourth canto. So therefore fourth canto is Visarga, secondary creation. So Sarga is primary creation, Visarga is secondary creation. Then so therefore this is third canto, this is fourth canto. Okay. Then Stitir Vaikunta Vijayaha. So this describes Sthanam. Sorry, third topic is Sthanam. Okay, this is fifth canto. So what is Sthanam? Stitihi. Sthanam refers to the Lord protecting his devotee. Vaikunta Vijayaha. This shows the excellence of Lord Vishnu who stays in Vaikunta. So there are three universal controllers: Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Brahma for creation, Vishnu for maintenance, and Lord Shiva for destruction. But amongst these three, Vaikunta Vijayaha, the one who stays in Vaikunta, always victorious. He's is superior to the other two. So because he maintains the living entities in particular abodes according to what they deserve and what they desire. So therefore, amongst Srishti, Sthiti and Pralaya, Sthiti or maintenance is superior. Therefore, Vaikunta Vijayaha. Therefore, Lord Vishnu is superior to Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Sthitir Vaikunta Vijaya, because he is engaged in maintaining the living entities in particular abodes. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti mentions here, Dhanam means protection or sthitihi, which shows the excellence of the Supreme Lord in comparison to Brahma, the creator, and Shiva, the destroyer. Therefore, Sthitir Vaikunta Vijaya. Sthiti means Dhanam. Sthiti also refers to the condition of the jivas. Or Vaikunta Vijaya can mean that the Lord destroys the suffering of the jiva, since Jaya means victory over. So he wins over the heart of the jiva by destroying the suffering of the jiva. Therefore, Sthitir Vaikunta Vijayaha. So then, okay. So this is about Sthiti. This is primarily the 5th canto where Vedic cosmology is described. Sthanam. How, various planetary systems are there in which each living entity is maintained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in that way, the 14 planetary systems are described. So 5th canto is dedicated to Sthanam. Then Poshanam Tad Anugraha. What is Poshanam? Poshanam means the Lord's mercy. Okay. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti writes, after the creation, the condition of the jivas is described. In protecting the jivas, the Lord shows his mercy to some, the devotees performing sadhana, even if they are involved in sin by accident. The general protection of the Supreme Lord in his Purushavatara form is Dhanam. But the specific protection that is bestowed by the Supreme Lord in his form of Bhagavan to especially devotees, that is Poshanam. And how lenient is the Supreme Lord in identifying someone as a devotee. Okay. So we see in the case of Ajamil, Ajamil called his son Narayana. The Lord took, oh, here is my devotee, I will protect him. He sent the Vishnu Dutas. Okay. So, I mean, the Lord has a way, which means this shows the eagerness of the Supreme Lord to identify someone as belonging to him. What is the story of Ajamil? In one sense, nothing. He was such a sinful person. And then we see in the case of Indra also. Indra offends his own guru, but of course, and then he suffers a lot, but still the Lord protects him. And Vritrasur is an asura. So just to show, if there is bhakti, I am willing to protect even an asura, in order to show that the episode of Vritrasur comes. Poshanam, how the Lord is tatpar, eager to protect his devotees, especially. Even though the devotee may be suffering from various kinds of anarthas and shortcomings, that is called as Poshanam. And 6th canto especially discusses about Poshanam. Poshanam tadanugraha. Then Manvantarani Saddharma. Manvantara refers to the conduct of the kings ruling the Manvantara periods. Okay. So this talks about the 5th topic of Manvantara. Okay. This is described in the 8th canto. Okay. So, as you all know, the day of Brahma is divided into 14 Manvantaras, right? So in each Manvantara, there are, 71 Chaturyugas. So, therefore, in each Manvantara, there are 6 personalities who rule, who are engaged in the universal management of the universe. First is the Manu. Okay. The second are the Manuputras. Okay. Third is the Manvantara Avatara. Fourth is Indra. Fifth are the Devatas. And sixth are the 7 sages, the Saptarishis. These are all posts, and different personalities occupy this post. Okay. So all of them. So Manu is Vibhuti, an empowered Jiva. Okay. So, and the Manuputras, they assist the Manu. The sons of Manu, for example, Swayambhuva Manu, he had Uttanapad and Priyavrat Maharaj as his sons. They assist the Manu in universal management. And the Manvantara avatar is a Vishnu Tattva. Like for example, in Swayambhuva Manvantara, the Manvantara avatar is Lord Yagya. And in the Swarochisha Manvantara, it is Lord Hari. So like that. And then the Indra also, his post lasts for 1 Manvantara. After that 1 Manvantara, some another person occupies the post of Indra. Then the Devatas also, 33 crore Devatas and the 7 sages. They are all, these are all posts which are occupied by different personalities at the end of a Manvantara. So, if you see, the 8th canto talks about Manvantara, this topic of Manvantara. But Manvantarani Sadharma, how the conduct of the kings ruling the Manvantara periods. But if you see in Bhagavatam, in the 8th canto, all the topics, whatever Krishna Katha happens, whether it is Gajendra Moksha or Samudra Manthan Leela or any other Leela which comes, it is all topic related to Manvantara Avatar, except for the last chapter which discuss about Matsya Avatar. Matsya Avatar is not a Manvantara Avatar, it's a Leela Avatar. But nevertheless, Matsya Avatar appears in every Manvantara. After every pralaya, after there is a the Vishnu Dharmottara Puran says that there is a pralaya after every Manvantara, a smaller pralaya or a devastation. So during which Matsya comes to protect. So because he appears during every Manvantara, Matsya Avatar is also discussed in the 8th canto. But rest of the Krishna Katha which happens in the 8th canto is all the Leelas of Manvantara Avataras. Ajita. Ajita is he is the Manvantara Avatar during, I think, Chakshusha Manvantara, during which Samudra Manthan Leela happens. Right. So all these Leelas, because in the beginning of 8th canto, Parikshit Maharaj asked Shukadev Goswami, my dear Gurudev, I requested you to speak when in the beginning of 3rd canto, when you spoke about the appearance of Swayambhuva Manu, I had a great desire to hear about his lineage because he's such an exalted personality. So I requested you, and in response to that, you spoke about the lineage of Swayambhuva Manu in 3rd canto, 4th canto, 5th canto, 6th canto. 4 cantos got over, and then the 7th canto you spoke about Narasimha Avatar. So in this way, from 3rd canto to 7th canto, so many cantos got over. But actually, I had a desire to ask you about all the 14 Manus who appeared during the day of Brahma. But describing about the lineage of one Manu only, so many cantos have passed. So can you describe about the other Manus also? about their lineages. So he says, okay, so now I will do that. So in a very more focused way, Shukadev Goswami starts again with Swayambhu Manu, and very briefly, and then he describes, then he describes about how in every Manvantara there are the 6 personalities, Manu, Manuputras, Manvantara Avataras, Indra, the Devatas and the sages who are involved in management of the particular universe during that Manvantara period. And then he describes that so then he says that the Manvantara Avatara during the time of Swayambhu Manu, he is Lord Hari, and he was the one who rescued Gajendra from that crocodile. Then suddenly Parikshit Maharaj asks, oh, Gajendra Moksha, oh, is it Lord Hari? Oh, can you please elaborate? This is such a wonderful pastime. Can you please describe this Gajendra Moksha Leela? And then 3 chapters describe Gajendra Moksha. Then he discusses about the subsequent Manvantaras, and then he says, oh, during this Manu period, it was Lord Ajita who was the Manvantara Avatara, and this Lord Ajita was involved in the Samudra Manthan Leela. He says, oh, really? I really didn't know. Can you please, this Samudra Manthan Leela is such a famous Leela. I really want to know about this Samudra Manthan Leela. Can you please elaborate? Another 4 or 5 chapters describe Samudra Manthan Leela. So in this way, in 24 chapters in the 8th canto, Shukadev Goswami describes basically the 14 Manus, the 14 Manuputras, the 14 Manvantara Avataras and their pastimes, and the names of Indra, the sages and the Devatas and all that. With this as the framework, with the 14 Manus as the framework, he describes various leaves of Krishna Leela is described in the 8th canto with this at the framework. So the 8th canto discusses about Manvantara. Then Utaya Karma Vasana. Uti. This is the 6th topic, is Uti. What is Uti? Uti refers to the impressions created by the Jiva's actions which lead them to future births. Utaya Karma Vasana. Okay. This is described in the 7th canto. Okay. So Uti refers to, so karma means when someone performs a particular action. So when an action is performed, there are 2 kinds of repercussions to that action. One is karma and another is vasana. Okay. So just like if someone is diabetic, if someone is suffering from diabetes, if he eats a rasgulla, so there are 2 responses to this. One is the karma. I mean, I'm just giving an example. The karma is that he will suffer because there is insufficient insulin generated by his body which can process that sugar. So he suffers because of eating that rasgulla. So this is karma. And the vasana is that when he eats that rasgulla, he likes it very much. So there is an impression of enjoying that rasgulla that gets impressed in his mind, and next time that which impels him to further crave for that rasgulla the next time he gets an opportunity, right? So every action has these 2 types of response. One is karma, for which he has to either suffer or enjoy later. So karma, the response of karma is in the form of piety, accumulation of piety or impiety. Okay. And vasanas also accumulate in the form of impressions, experience of either enjoyment or suffering. Okay. So in this way, there is uti. Okay. So this is called as this vasana is called as uti because this vasana impels the person to act again in a particular way. Utaya karma vasana. And this inspires future birth also, right? So for example, in the case of in the 7th canto, in the first 10 chapters, there is the story of Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad Maharaj, right? So Hiranyakashipu is a classic case of how when one acts inappropriately, inauspiciously, one accumulates inauspicious impressions or inauspicious vasanas, which impels that person to further perform inauspicious demoniac activities. That is what we see in the life of Hiranyakashipu. So demoniac vasanas leads to demoniac actions. That is uti, demoniac uti. Uti means impetus. And we see the case of Prahlad Maharaj, who, while he was in the womb of his mother Kayadu, hears Krishna Katha continuously from Narada Muni and gets powerful devotional vasanas, which impels him to act like a devotee, like a pure devotee. So this is Uti, right? And then there's 5 chapters. Now there are 15 chapters in the 7th canto. The first 10 chapters describe the pastime of Narasimhadev, Prahlad Maharaj, and Hiranyakashipu. And then the last 5 chapters describe the description of Varnashrama by Narada Muni to Yudhishthir Maharaj. He describes this Varnashrama. So this whole system of Varna and Ashrama, if you see, it is a system which is devised based on Uti. A living entity, while living a particular life, he has accumulated particular vasanas. He has accumulated particular vasanas or impressions which needs to be facilitated, right? And Varnashram is the system. So naturally, people who grew up accumulating mode of goodness impressions, they are facilitated in the Varnashram system by giving appropriate engagements. Patan, Patan, Yajan, Yajan, Dana, Pratigraha, which they would naturally be inclined to perform. And someone who is who has accumulated mixed modes of passion and goodness, he would naturally be inclined, he would naturally be chivalrous, he would have a lot of virulence and virility. So therefore, he is given the role of protection, like that. So he is given the activities of a Kshatriya, management, ruling, protection, like that. And naturally, people who have a predominance of Rajogun, a little bit of Tamogun, they are naturally inclined more for accumulating money and enhancing or adding that money, expanding that money and all that. So therefore, they are given Krishi, Goraksha, Vanijyam, Vaishya Karma, Swabhavajam, like that. So they are given the occupations of agriculture, cow protection, and things like that. So basically, this whole Varnashram system identifies and appreciates that living entities in their various lifetimes that they spend in this material world accumulate various kinds of material impressions, and a system needs to be there to facilitate these living entities to act according to their impressions in a regulated way so that they can purify material impressions and transcend this material world. So this whole Varnashram system is devised for this purpose, while with Uti as the foundation. So description of that Varnashram system is there in the last 5 chapters of 7th canto, so which describes Uti, Utaya Karma Vasana, right? So here Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti describes Manvantara. He says Manvantara refers to the religious conduct of the kings reigning during the Manvantara, revealed through narratives concerning them. This performance of dharma by the sattvic jivas engaged in karma yoga is considered the conditions of the jiva in this world. Uti refers to the impressions produced by actions, those things which are accomplished by actions. Uyante iti uti, like that. It refers to the impressions arising from actions, either high or low. Pious or impious acts become the cause of future happiness and distress. Okay. So within the condition of this world, the nature of the high and low jivas is described by describing Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu, like that. This is in the, so this is, we have discussed Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam, Manvantara and Uti. 6 topics have been discussed. Now the 7th topic is Ishanukata. So the 7th topic is Ishanukata. Okay. So this is described primarily in the 9th canto. Avataраನುಚರಿತಂ Harescha Asya Anuvartinam Pumsam Ishakata Prokta Nana Akhyana Upabrahmhitaha. So he says Ishakata Prokta. Ishakata refers to Harehe Avatar Anucharitam. Descriptions of the Lord's avatars. Okay. And Cha Asya Anuvartinam Pumsam, and their devotees. Nana Akhyana Brahmita. And it is filled with various stories, short stories. If you see in the 9th canto, there are so many short stories. Small short stories. That is Ishanukata. Some stories describing the avatars, some stories describing the pastimes of the devotees of those avatars. Avataranu charitam harescha asya anuvartinam pumsam. Descriptions of Avatar Katha and Avatar Bhakta Katha also. Both, and which is narrated in the form of short stories. That is how the whole 9th canto is described. So that is called as Ishanukata. That is 9th canto. Okay. So then, Nirodho Asyanushayanam Atmanas Sahashaktibihi Muktir Hitva Anyata Rupam Swarupena Vyavastitihi. So this describes the 8th topic, which is Nirodha, which is described in the 12th canto. Okay. So, someone is asking, what about 8th canto? I already described. 8th canto is Manvantara. 7th canto is Huti. So we have till now covered 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th cantos. And now 12th canto. So 12th canto is described. Is the 8th topic is Nirodha, which is described in the 12th canto. What is Nirodha? He says, Nirodho Atmanaha Anushayanam. Nirodha refers to the merging of the jiva Saha Shaktibihi, along with his material identity, into the Lord at the time of final devastation of the universe. So, how the living entities merge into the Supreme Lord at the time of devastation, how the living entities merge into Karanodaka Sai Vishnu at the time of final devastation, how the living entities merge into Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu at the time of partial devastation, and how, what is death, which is also one kind of Nirodha. So all these things are described in the 12th canto, which is Nirodha. Then the 9th topic is Mukti. Okay. Muktir hitva anyata rupena vyavastitihi. What is Mukti? Mukti means hitva anyata rupam, where one gives up his other, who gives up his gross subtle material bodies. And after giving up his gross and subtle material bodies, Swarupena Vyavastitihi, he is reinstated in his own constitutional position. That is Mukti. So, what is Mukti? How is Mukti accomplished? So Mukti means, death means to give up gross body. And mukti means to give up gross and subtle body. Gatasun agatasunscha nanu shochanti pandita. As Krishna says, oh Arjuna, you are talking like a very learned man. But a learned man does not lament for gatasun agatasunscha. He does not lament for that from which the life air leaves. Gata asuhu. Asuhu means the life air. So that from which the life air leaves at the time of death, that is gross body. The gross body is left behind by the life air, the soul, which carries the life air, which carries the soul itself, and the subtle body. They travel from one gross body to the another gross body. So the life air does not leave the subtle body. The life air leaves only the gross body at the time of death. Okay. But at the time of liberation, the soul leaves the life air, the gross body, the subtle body, everything it leaves behind and goes and merges in the Brahma Jyoti. If it is a if the soul practiced Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga, or it will go to the abode of the Lord if it practiced Bhakti Yoga. So muktir hitva anyata rupam swarupena vyavastitihi. So what is this mukti? What are the various types of mukti? By what kind of practice, what kind of mukti is achieved? What is the situation of a person at the stage of mukti? As Krishna says, Sthita pragyasya kabasha samadhistasya keshava sitadir kim prabhasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. These are the symptoms of a, Arjuna is asking about what are the symptoms of a Jivan Mukta. But not only a Jivan Mukta, but also what is the state of being completely liberated while living in this world and after achieving. These details are discussed in great detail through two primary conversations in the 11th canto. One is the conversation between the Navayogendras and Nimi Maharaj, and another is the conversation between Krishna and Uddhava in Uddhava Gita. So the whole of 11th canto, through these two conversations, amongst various different topics, mukti is described in detail. So the 9th topic of mukti is attributed to the 11th canto. Even though these topics are there in Kapila's teachings, also mukti is described, and in other such cantos also these things come, but primarily 11th canto is attributed to the topic of mukti. Okay, so here Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says Nirodha refers to the sleeping of the jiva along with his subtle coverings following after the Lord's sleep. So this refers to the jivas merging into the Lord after the protection period is complete. When the sthiti, when the maintenance time is over, when it is time for the dissolution, after dissolution, those living entities which are not qualified for liberation, they will merge into the body of Karanodaka Sai Vishnu and remain in a supta avastha, in a sleeping state, till it is the time for the next creation. Okay. But those who are qualified for liberation, they will attain liberation. That is the 9th topic, muktir hitva anyata rupam swarupena vyavastitihi. So mukti refers to the condition in which the jiva remains in his pure form or in the form of an associate of the Lord in some cases after giving up the gross and subtle bodies of Maya. So therefore this mukti refers to both Sayujya mukti and the personal and becoming a personal associate of the Lord, both. Thus, the 9 topics related to the jiva, starting with his attaining a material body, have been described. So the 9 topics have been described here. Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam, Uti, Manvantara, Ishanukata, Nirodho, Mukti. 9 topics have been discussed. Okay. Now, what is this 10th topic of Ashraya? Okay, what is the 10th topic of Ashraya? He says, Abhasascha Nirodascha Yatosti Adhyavasiyate Sa ashraya param brahma paramatmeti shabdyate. So he says, Saha ashraya. The ashraya, who is Bhagavan, is to asti adyavasiyate. Is that personality from whom arise abhasascha nirodascha. Starting from creation till destruction. From sarga to nirodha, which means and everything in between, which means sarga, visarga, sthanam, poshanam, uti, manvantara, ishanukata, and mukti, everything. So that from whom? So Ashraya refers to that person who gives shelter to these other 9 topics. What does it mean to give shelter to these 9 topics? So the other 9 topics are described only to help understand the 10th topic of Ashraya. So if the 10th topic is not there, there is no purpose for describing the 9 topics. There is no purpose to describe the other 9 topics without describing the 10th topic, because ultimately the srota, the source of all these other 9 topics is Krishna. So that is what is described here. And that person is called as Param Brahma, Paramatma iti Shabdyate. So that Bhagavan, his partial features are also called as Paramatma and Brahman. So the Ashraya is Krishna. So he is the Ashraya Tattva. Okay. So now someone may say that did Prabhupada give titles according to these according to this did he give titling according to this way? Somewhat and somewhat he did not. For example, Prabhupada titles which canto as creation, primary creation? Anyone knows? The first canto, someone says first canto. Yeah, he titles the first canto as creation. So, well, someone asked, I was there in the class and someone asked His Holiness Bhanuswami Maharaj, that Maharaj, why did Prabhupada title the first canto as creation? Where is the description of creation in the first canto? So Maharaj answered briefly, but he did not elaborate on it. He said Prabhupada did not title. This was the answer that he gave. So anyway, it could have been BBT or whomever, they gave a titling. But is there any place where Srila Prabhupada talks about titling the cantos? This is a very important thing. Okay. So this is Vishwanath Chakravarti's explanation, is that does Prabhupada attribute titles to particular cantos? Okay. In a very interesting, I was searching for this and I got a very interesting proof or place where Srila Prabhupada talks about titling the cantos. You know where? It is in his Jaladuta diary. So in his Jaladuta diary, Srila Prabhupada talks about titling of the cantos. It is there in his entry. If you look at Srila Prabhupada's Jaladuta diary, it is there. So Prabhupada, he's sitting in his Jaladuta. He has the first canto, the 3 volumes of the first canto there. So first canto is ready. He's sitting in Jaladuta and probably envisioning his writing the subsequent cantos. So he starts by titling the cantos first. And this is there in his Jaladuta diary, if you check. So he titles the cantos. So he says, the first canto he's titling as the absolute truth. That is the title that he gives. Even though in the current Bhagavatam, first canto is titled as creation. But sitting in Jaladuta, Prabhupada titled the first canto as the absolute truth, because it starts with Janmadhyasya Yatonvayaditarataschaarteshu abhijñāsvarat. Of course, we can only guess why Prabhupada gave this titling. I am just guessing, because the first canto starts with description of the absolute truth. Maybe for that reason. Canto 2, Prabhupada titles it as Symptoms of Objectivity. Well, I have no idea why Prabhupada titled it that way, but this is what Prabhupada titles it as. Third canto, Prabhupada titles it as Creation of the Material World. This is Sarga. This is in line with Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti's titling. Canto he attributes to Sarga. Fourth canto, Srila Prabhupada titles as the sub-creators. This is Visarga, secondary creation. This is also in line with Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti's titling. Fifth canto, Prabhupada titles as the planetary system, Sthanam. This is also in line with Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti's titling of the cantos. Sixth canto, Srila Prabhupada titles as Lord the Protector. This is Poshanam. This is also in line with Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti's titling the cantos. Seventh canto, Srila Prabhupada titles as Creative Impetus. Impetus means Uti. This is again the seventh canto is attributed to Uti by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti also. Eighth canto, Prabhupada titles as Change of Manpower. This is Manvantara. Okay. And ninth, he titles as the Signs of God. Maybe this is Ishanukata. Okay. Ishanukata. This is Signs of God. And the 10th topic, 10th canto, he titles Krishna, the cause of all causes, which is Ashraya. 11th topic, Srila Prabhupada titles as the path of liberation, Mukti. Right. And the 12th canto, Prabhupada titles as the Samambonam. I don't know why. But Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, Mukti is, sorry, not Mukti, Nirodha is attributed to the 12th canto. So in this way, this is what is from the Jaladuta diary. So Prabhupada had envisioned his writing the subsequent cantos, and he actually named those cantos. This is all there in his Jaladuta diary. And there is second very interesting place where Srila Prabhupada talks about titling of cantos, which is relevant to our current discussion, which is in the beginning of 6th canto. Today we are actually beginning the 6th canto, and in the introduction part, in the introduction to this canto, Srila Prabhupada writes, throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, the descriptions of the 10 subject matters, including creation, subsequent creation, and the planetary system. This is Sarga, Visarga, and Sthanam. Okay. Shukadeva Goswami, the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, has already described creation, subsequent creation, and the planetary systems in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th cantos. So again, Prabhupada attributes 3rd canto, Sarga, 4th canto to Visarga, and 5th canto to Sthanam. Now in the 6th canto, which consists of 19 chapters, he will describe Poshana, or protection by the Lord. So this is in the beginning of 6th canto only, he gives further proofs. This is from Prabhupada's own writing. This is how Prabhupada titled the cantos also. So now, talking about these 10 topics, we will discuss what is the exclusive superiority of Srimad Bhagavatam. So these 10 topics are, as we saw before, these 10 topics are not just there in Srimad Bhagavatam. They are there in all the Puranas, all the Mahapuranas, all the 18 Puranas have these 10 topics. But still there is a difference in the way in which these 10 topics are described in Srimad Bhagavatam in comparison to the other Puranas. What is that difference? So we saw Dashamasya Vishuddhyartam Navanam Iha Lakshanam Varnayante Mahatmanah Shrutena Artena Cha Anjasa. So Dashamasya Vishuddhyartam Navanam Iha Lakshanam Varnayante. Only in Bhagavatam, the other 9 topics are discussed purely and systematically to glorify the 10th topic of Krishna. Okay. So it is just like if you are taking darshan of their lordships, you go to the temple. Either you may go to, either Dallas temple to take darshan of, Radha Krishna deities, or you may go to Philadelphia temple to take darshan of Shishi, Radha, Sharad Bihari, or whomever, wherever you go, if you see the forms of their lordships standing very beautifully, and we are able to appreciate their beauty. But what we don't really think so much about is that, Dallas is Radha Kalachandji. Yeah. So, and so you go there and take darshan. So if you see there on the altar, there are focus lights which are kept at strategic positions. So one focus light is shining on the lotus feet of Radharani. Another focus light is shining on the lotus face of Srimati Radharani. Another focus light is shining on the lotus feet of Krishna. Another portion is shining on the mid portion of Krishna. Third focus light on the face of Krishna. Like that, different focus lights are focusing on various parts of the altar, so that a person who comes to take darshan of their lordships, he can appreciate their beauty and feel inspired in his Krishna consciousness, right? So these other, even though is Krishna or Radharani's beauty, is their beauty dependent on the focus lights? No. So their beauty is not at all dependent on the focus lights, but if those focus lights are not there in their strategic positions and shining on their lordships, a conditioned soul cannot appreciate the beauty of Radha and Krishna, right? So similarly, the 10th canto topic of Krishna is not dependent on the other 9 topics of Sarga, Visarga, Sthana, Oshanam, Muti, like that. But if these 9 topics are there in their strategic positions, a conditioned soul taking shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam can perfectly appreciate the glory of Krishna. So these other 9 topics in Srimad Bhagavatam are exclusively there for the purpose of glorifying Krishna. So therefore, in his Bhakti Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami says, even the descriptions of the other avatars katha, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam, enhances the attraction of the reader towards Krishna only. How it happens? Only the acharyas know. We may not be able to see, but it happens. We may not be able to see, how by hearing this topic, I will develop attraction to Krishna. We may not know. Just like a patient not know how by eating this particular medicine, I will overcome this particular ailment. But the doctor knows. So we just have to have trust in the doctor and take the medicine. And we will get the end result. So therefore, Jiva Goswami makes this very interesting point that even descriptions of these other avatars, their katha in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is given in such a way that and at the end it develops our attraction towards Krishna only in the 10th topic, in the 10th canto. So Dashamasya Vishuddhyartham Navanam Ihalakshanam. So all the other 9 topics are discussed purely in a way and in a sequence to actually help us develop attraction for the 10th topic of Krishna. But this consistency of purpose is there only in Srimad Bhagavatam, not in the other Puranas. Other Puranas also talk about these 10 topics, but their description of these 10 topics is sometimes consistent with this purpose, but many times it is not consistent with this purpose. Bhagavatam is the only book in which every single syllable is spoken in such a way that we develop attraction towards Krishna. It may be Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam, Uti, Manvantara, Ishanukata, Nirodha or Mukti. Does not matter. It will help us systematically develop an attraction towards Krishna. Okay. So, in the 12th canto, there is a verse. There are many verses. I will take one verse to illustrate this point. In the 12th canto, Srila Shukadeva Goswami says, or Bhagavatam says, Kalimala samhati kalano akilesho harir itaratra na giyate hi abhikshnam iha tu punar bhagavan ashesha murtihi paripatito anupadam katha prasangaihi. It is mentioned, Harihi Akila Isha, Narayana, the soul of this universal form, Kalimala Samhati Kalana. He annihilates the accumulated sins of Kali Yuga. So that Narayana who destroys the sins of Kali Yuga, Itaratra means in the other scriptures. In the other scriptures, this is Vyasadeva writing it. And it is Vyasadeva who wrote the other scriptures also. And that Vyasadeva is writing, Itaratra, in other scriptures other than Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Narayana, Itaratra, na giyate, he is not glorified, abhikshnam. He is not so much glorified, he is not consistently and continuously glorified in the other scriptures. This is the opinion of Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is writing. He is the one who wrote the other scriptures. He says, in the other books, the Lord is not glorified so much. Iha tu, but the same Supreme Lord, Bhagavan, Punaha, is abundantly and constantly paripatito anupadam. He is described throughout in every single verse, every single chapter, every single syllable, katha prasangaihi, through the various narrations of Srimad Bhagavatam. Iha katha prasangaihi in Srimad Bhagavatam. So only in Srimad Bhagavatam, every single syllable is written with the sole purpose of helping the reader develop attraction towards Krishna. But this purpose is not consistent in any other Puranas other than Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti commenting on this verse, he says, Anupadam means in every subject or chapter. Other works glorify karma and devatas like Brahma. Those works do not glorify Vishnu. I mean, they do glorify, but not consistently. If they do, it is not much. In Bhagavatam alone, exclusively, Iha tu, Bhagavan, who has unlimited forms, like Narayana, Ashesha Murti, is profusely glorified. This is not done in other works. No such consideration has been made. By all topics introduced in every line, Bhagavan is glorified completely. Paripatito. Okay. So, this is the exclusive glory of Srimad Bhagavatam, that it uses all these 9 topics to actually perfectly glorify Krishna. But this consistency of purpose is not there in any other literature other than Srimad Bhagavatam. So, okay, there is another verse which Srila Vidura is speaking to Maitreya in the 3rd canto. So Vidura is he has been searching Maitreya because he has been Uddhava has asked Vidura to hear Bhagavatam from Maitreya. But interestingly, Vidura's own father is Vyasadeva. And Vyasadeva is a more accomplished writer and speaker than Maitreya. And Vyasadeva was famous for especially writing the Mahabharata, which is considered to be Vyasadeva's magnum opus creation. And Maitreya then had not written anything of, real significance that we know. But the son of Vyasadeva, Vidura, he has approached Maitreya to hear Krishna Katha. This might surprise even Maitreya himself. So Maitreya might ask Vidura, I am surprised. Your father is such an accomplished writer and speaker. He is the author of Mahabharata. How could you come to me to hear some katha? Why did you approach me? So a very interesting answer is given by Vidura here. Paravaresham Bhagavan Vratani Shrutani me Vyasa Mukad Abhikshnam Atrupnuma Kshulla Sukavahanam Tesham Rite Krishna Katamritogat. He says, O Bhagavan, O great Maitreya, Shrutani me Abhikshnam. I have continuously heard Paravaresham Vratani. Para Avara. Para means pious people like the Pandavas. Avara means impious people like the Kauravas. Vratani means their actions or natures. I have heard about the actions and natures of pious people like Pandavas, impious people like Kauravas. Constantly, Abhikshnam, constantly I have heard about pious activity, impious activity, pious activity, impious activity. Constantly I have heard, but Vyasamukat, from the mouth of my father Vyasadev, when he was narrating Mahabharata. But what is the result? Tesham atrupnuma. I am not at all satisfied hearing this. I have been satiated with hearing about these topics. Satiated means taggaya, no longer I have a desire to hear, I have no more interest to hear this. Atrupnuma, that's why the word atrupti is used. And I was not satisfied. Why? Kshulla sukha avahanam. Because it gave me very insignificant happiness. Piety, impiety, piety, impiety, piety, impiety. I was not happy hearing all these things. Why? Rite. Why did it have insignificant happiness? Because that Mahabharata was devoid of Krishna Katha Amrita Oghat. It was devoid of the great sweetness of Krishna's pastimes. So Krishna's pastimes were not consistently described in Mahabharata. So therefore it did not lead me to any kind of pleasure. So Srila Prabhupada, commenting on this verse, he says, Vidura explained to Maitreya his position of being fully satiated with the knowledge of mundane social and political topics and having no more interest in them. He was anxious to hear transcendental topics regarding Lord Krishna. Because there were insufficient topics directly concerning Krishna in the Puranas and Mahabharata, etc., he was not satisfied and wanted to know more about Krishna. And of course, Vyasadeva himself was not satisfied, that we know. And after compiling, Srimad Bhagavatam, he became completely satisfied. So, Vidura wanted to hear everything from Maitreya, and so he inquired from him, but he desired that all the topics be in relationship with Krishna. Yadi Krishna Katashrayam Atava Asya Padamboja Makaranda Liham Satam. So this is the request put forth by Vidura to Maitreya. He says, see, you speak whatever it is. In the end, it should inspire me towards the lotus feet of Krishna. Yadi Krishna Katha Shrem. If that takes shelter of Krishna Katha, you speak any topic and connect it to Krishna Katha. Atava Asya Padamboja Makaranda Liham Satam. Or else it should concern with the topics of the devotees who are very eager to lick the honey which is emanating from the lotus feet of the Lord. Either Krishna Katha or Krishna Bhakta Katha. Don't speak anything about piety, impiety, dharma, and all these things. I have sufficiently heard about all these things from Mahabharata. I have no more interest. Speak direct Krishna Katha. That is why I have come to you, O Maitreya. Like that he says. So, so therefore Bhagavatam is, has been designed in that way so that it is directly, it will either those topics which don't seem like direct Krishna Katha will enhance our appetite for Krishna Katha. Inconceivably, conceivably sometimes, inconceivably many times. Right. So that is why even Brahmaji, after speaking Bhagavatam to Narada Muni in the second canto, he says, Idam Bhagavatam Nama Yanme Bhagavatoditam Sangrahoyam Vibhutinam Tvametad Vipuli Kuru. He says, this work is called Bhagavatam. This was spoken to me by the Lord. Yanme Bhagavatoditam. Ayam Vibhutinam Sangraha. It is a collection of Lord's Vibhutis. Tvametad Vipuli Kuru. And you distribute it everywhere. And how he should distribute? Yata harau bhagavati nrinam bhaktir bhavishyati sarvatman yakiladare iti sankalpya varnaya. Take a sankalpa that you will distribute this Bhagavatam to at least so many people. And varnaya, and describe this Bhagavatam. But how you should speak Bhagavatam? You should speak Bhagavatam in such a way that it aligns with the purpose of Bhagavatam. What is the purpose of Bhagavatam? Yata Bhaktihi, Yata Bhagavati Bhaktihi Bhavishyati, Nrinam Bhavishyati. You should speak Bhagavatam in such a way that by hearing that Bhagavatam, devotion to the Supreme Lord Bhagavan is manifest within the hearts of the living entities, of human beings, especially human beings of Kali Yuga. Because you should distribute Bhagavatam or speak Bhagavatam in this way, because this is the purpose of Bhagavatam. Yata harau bhagavati nrinam bhaktir bhavishyati sarvatmani akiladare iti sankalpya varnaya. Take a sankalpa in this way and distribute Bhagavatam like this. Okay. So now I will do a quick so we have not yet completed even the first topic. I had one more topic in mind, but I'm afraid I may not have time to even complete this one topic. But let me quickly brush through this last subtopic of this. We are talking about the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. So I wanted to just touch on this topic of how Bhagavatam, which is multifaceted, it accomplishes multiple purpose through these 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary Sarartha Darshini, he gives 5 different explanations of the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, this Janmadhyasya Yato verse. So we will not go through the meanings. I won't have time. So in the first explanation, he establishes, so this is the Vastu Nirdesh verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, the first verse. Talks about what is the subject matter of this book. What does this book want to accomplish? That is described. So in the first explanation of this verse, he describes Bhagavan as the subject matter of this book. So he explains, let us meditate upon the absolute truth Krishna, Satyam Param Dhimahi, who is the cause of creation, maintenance and destruction, Janmadhyasya Yataha, Anvayad Itarataha, and he is also, as the material and efficient cause of this universe, he takes care of creation, maintenance, destruction. How can he do this? How can one Bhagavan do all this because he is Arteshu Abhignaha. He is the knower of all objects, and he is Swarat, he is independent. That's why he is able to do it. Yaha Tene Brahma, and he is the one who revealed the Vedas to Adi Kavi Brahma within his heart or mind. And Muyyanti Yat Surayah, he is difficult to understand even for the learned people. And so on. I won't go through the whole verse because so basically this verse describes Bhagavan, this explanation. And he gives a second explanation that by understanding a different meaning to the same verse, he says this establishes Krishna as the Vastu of this book. How? He says, Satyam Param Dhimahi. Let us meditate on Krishna, who is Satya. He explains why he is called a Satya. So Yaha, who Svena Dhamna, through his abode Mathura and by revelation of his form to his devotees. So Dham means form, Dham also means the abode. By revealing his Dham, Mathura and his form of Krishna, Sada Nirasta Kuhak, he destroys the ignorance concerning himself. There are elaborate explanations of this, we will not get into that. So, and then he describes, Asya Janmadi Yataha Itarataha Cha Anu Ayat. So this also means who after appearing in Vasudev's house went to Nanda Maharaj's house. This is another meaning. This is another meaning that he gives where he explains that, this verse talks about Krishna. Establishing Krishna as the subject matter of this book. Okay. Then he gives a third explanation that establishing Madhura Rasa as the Vastu of this book by taking a more confidential meaning. Okay. Anyway, and then fourth explanation, he establishes Radha and Krishna as the Vastu of this book. Okay. And then in the fifth explanation, he establishes Bhakti as the Vastu of this book. Okay. Anyway, when you get time, you can read his explanations, very sweet explanations of the first verse. He gives 5 different meanings. But I want you to focus on this, what he writes at the end of those 5 explanations. He says that Bhagavatam is compared to lamp in the following verse. You know this verse. Yes, Swanubhavam Akila Shruti Saramekam Adhyatma Deepam. So Bhagavatam is compared to a lamp in this first canto, verse 1.2.3. Bhagavatam is also compared to the sun. A lamp gives illumination. A sun gives much more complete illumination, right? So Bhagavatam is also compared to the sun. Krishne Swadamo Pagate Dharma Jnanadi Vissaha Kalau Nashta Drishamesha Purana Arko Adhuna Uditaha. So here Bhagavatam is also compared to a sun. Bhagavatam is also compared to a tasty fruit, right? In the third verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam. A very tasty fruit, which oozes with rasa. So Bhagavatam is compared to a lamp. Bhagavatam is compared to a tasty fruit. Bhagavatam is compared to the sun. And Bhagavatam is also sometimes compared to the Mohini avatar, because it gives different results to different people. So he quotes a verse from the 10th canto, which seemingly indicates Kaivalyaika Prayojanam. So Bhagavatam is a book in which the purpose of that Bhagavatam, when literally translated, it means the main goal of Bhagavatam is merging in the Brahma Jyoti. Okay. So he says that the first explanation of the first verse of Bhagavatam shows its nature as light, lamp, right? Because it gives deliverance from misery through general understanding of the Lord. Okay. So the first explanation which gave, okay, this is the Vastu, the subject matter of this book is Bhagavan. Then the second explanation that he gave is Krishna. So this verse specifically talks about Krishna. So this explains, this is the sun aspect. of, where Bhagavatam is compared to the sun, which is more powerful, which destroys misconceptions of the demons, bringing joy to the devotees. And the third, fourth, and fifth explanations, which describe the subject matter of the book to be Madhura Rasa, Radha and Krishna, and Bhakti, and pure Bhakti. This shows Bhagavatam to be like a tasty fruit, like that. So he says, the devotees being rightful recipients are considered to be like the devatas, since they receive the nectar in the form of relishing the rarest taste of these 5 meanings. All these 5 meanings are tasted by the devotees. But the Bhagavatam is considered to be like Mohini, serving out these different meanings of Bhagavatam to the devotees. So Bhagavatam is like Mohini Murti. She serves nectar to the devatas who are the devotees. But through the Bhagavatam also deceives the demons by giving alternative meanings by which they get bewildered also. And here, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, even though all 12 cantos of Bhagavatam are like the tasty fruit, okay, Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam is full Bhagavatam, but still, okay, it is like the tasty fruit, it is like the sun, and it is like the lamb, but still, Sarga and Nirodha, the first topic and the 8th topic, and various verses describing this are considered to be the lamp. So Sarga and Nirodha describe the lamp aspect of Srimad Bhagavatam. These topics reveal only the general aspect of the Lord. They reveal only the general aspect of the Lord. Whereas Visarga, secondary creation, Sthana, maintenance, Poshana, protection, Uti, Manvantara, Shanukata, and Mukti. All the other topics except Ashraya, they describe the sun aspect of Bhagavatam, because they reveal not just the general aspect of the Lord, but in addition, they reveal the results of forbidden practices for enjoyment and renunciation available in Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, and others, and unlimited sub-varieties, and many other topics also it reveals. So it reveals much more than just revealing just the general aspect of the Lord. So therefore, these topics are compared to the sun. And the 10th topic of Ashraya, which is the 10th canto, so this is compared to the tasty fruit, Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam. So here Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, even though all the topics describe all the the sun aspect, the lamp aspect, and the fruit aspect, but especially the 10th canto describes the real rasa of Srimad Bhagavatam. All the topics, however, give joy to the devotees of the Lord by taking on a meaning favorable for bhakti. But the same topics, however, are like Mohini and take on a different meaning for bewildering the demoniac group who give meanings unfavorable for bhakti. So, Bhagavatam gives ample scope for demoniac people for misinterpretation and for getting bewildered. So, Bhagavatam it acts as the sun and the lamp and the fruit and Murti for devotees. Mohini Murti serves nectar for the devatas. So she bestows the proper meanings for the devotees, and it acts only as Mohini Murti for the demons by cheating them, by cheating them of the proper meanings of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, like that. Anyway, so I wanted to discuss the second topic of where in this verse Parikshit Maharaj says Krama Yogopalabdena. How one achieves liberation by this gradual process of mukti. So how in second canto this Krama Mukti is this, I wanted to touch on this topic, but maybe some other time we will take because it's already time. So I think at this point we will pause to see if there are any quick discussion points, comments, questions. Thank you all very much for your patient listening and allowing me to go on and on for such a long time. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Danva Pranam, Prabhu. What an amazing class, Prabhu. First of all, thanks from all of us on the call for the time and effort you put just to explain us about this beautiful process of devotional service. So amazing, Prabhu. Thank you so much. First of all, thanks for all the work that you do for all of us. Thank you so much. You beautifully explained Sarga creation, Visarga, secondary creation, Sthana, Poshana, how he protects us, no matter Ajamila or Indra, how beautifully you explained it. Uti, Manavantra, beautiful points, Prabhu. Ishan Kuntha, Nirodha, Mukti, Ashraya. Everybody is Ashrita, but the Samam Bonam is Ashraya. So you all depend on him. And so beautifully you bring us to the diary of Srila Prabhupada. That was so beautiful. And our Srila Prabhupada knew what he was going to do, and everything was just crystal clear to him. Thank you so much, Prabhu. I won't take further time, but so many glories to your class, Prabhu. So beautiful. Anuradha Mataji, please go ahead with the question.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Raj Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Balaram, Shakti, Prabhu. Please expand below obeisances of glory to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhu, I have in every slide I have doubt, but I'll just stick to two. First, would you please enlighten on Tanmatras first? Then I have one more doubt.
Well, I can, but it is not completely relevant. Okay, Tanmatra means
just to know what it is. Yeah.
Tongue is the sense, and what do you experience through the tongue? You experience taste. So taste is Tanmatra. And you experience smell through the nose. Smell is Tanmatra. You experience sight through the eyes. Sight is Tanmatra, like that.
Yeah, as Sukasagari Mataji is saying, like the sense objects, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So other confusion that I had on verse 2:10:4, if you go to the slide where you're talking about Uti, there you have written the one is Vasana. Vasana, desire in plain simple English, right, Prabhu?
Vasana means impressions which impel that desire.
Okay. Before that, you have written something. I could not get that flow chart that you have written. If you can explain that a little bit, Prabhu.
Did I make a flow chart? I'm just
wondering. I mean, just
Let
short one. Yeah. Just, yeah. 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. On top, act something. Yeah. Next to that. Yeah. What is
this
that?
Is Uti, right?
Yeah. On the corner, if you have seen. Yeah. This one. Yes. This one. What?
This
can
one?
You explain? Yeah.
I said every action produces either karma. One is karma and vasana. I gave the example of eating a rasgulla, right? When you eat a rasgulla, your sugar level increases. That is karma.
Okay.
But after you eat the rasgulla, if you like the rasgulla, an impression of enjoying that rasgulla, it gets imprinted, and which impels you to, seek one more rasgulla. That is Uti, Vasana. That Vasana impels you to go after that rasgulla. So that's what I was explaining.
Okay. Under karma, what did you have write, Prabhu? 1 and 2, what are those? Under karma?
Piety, impiety.
Okay. I could not read that. Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Very grateful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Radha Mataji, for your question. Gail Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, a couple things. Again, Uti and Vasana, they seem to be synonymous, is it?
Yeah. That's why actually they are synonymous, because he says Utaya Karma Vasana. That's how it is defined only. Uti is Karma Vasana. That's how Bhagavatam defines. They're synonymous.
Okay, another thing was this, Maitreya, Muni, and Vidura. So I understood why he did not go to Vyasadeva, his own father,
He did go, but then he was
not satisfied. Right?
He was not satisfied. That's why he.
Yeah. So then how did he, there's so many people I feel like he could have gone to. How did he choose Maitreya Muni?
He didn't choose. Uddhava directed him. He first went to Uddhava, and Uddhava directed him to Maitreya.
Okay. Also, Srila Prabhupada, he named the 9th canto as Signs of God or Science of God.
Science. SCIENC. I think science.
Oh,
not
okay,
S.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think last thing was, you said that there were two types of krama. One is the yoga ladder, right? And what was the other type of krama?
The gradual liberation that was described in the 2nd canto, which is called as Krama Mukti.
Gradual liberation?
Yeah, I wanted to discuss that as a second theme, but I could barely complete the first topic, so I could not touch on that topic.
Well, can you just give me a little glimpse of what that means, the gradual liberation?
Okay, I will tell you what it means. Gradual liberation means when sometimes when when spiritual aspirants, they may have a primary goal, but they may also have some secondary goals, right? So like for example, these yogis, some of the yogis, they want only liberation and nothing of this world, so they directly attain liberation. This is called as direct liberation. But some other practitioners, they want liberation, that is their primary goal, but at the same time they have some strong curiosity to figure out, to check out the other planetary systems also, what is available there. Not that they want to enjoy it, that's not their ultimate desire, but still they want to check that out. So such people, on their way to liberation, they are allowed to stop by at these various intermediate places, and for some time they are allowed to enjoy those things till they are satisfied that there is nothing great here, so please push off from this place. So that way, this is called as Krama Mukti. Krama Mukti means gradual liberation, where the Shastras talk about 13 different destinations which provide subtler and subtler and subtler enjoyment on the way to Brahmajyoti. So they stop by at these 13 places, and instead of giving up their subtle body all at once, they give up grosser and grosser and grosser aspects of those subtle body, and then gradually the subtle body is given up. So therefore it is called as gradual liberation, or subtle, or Krama Mukti, or gradual liberation, like that.
They give up subtler and subtler, or grosser and grosser?
Subtler and subtler.
Okay, and these people
starting with grossest,
yes.
Starting with grossest, subtler and subtler and subtler.
Yeah, okay, because first you
aspects.
said grosser and grosser. That's why I was wondering.
Mistake.
Okay, and so these people who are doing this Krama liberation mukti, these would not be bhaktas, right? These are people
they are
only.
Not, in the description of Bhagavatam, they are not bhaktas, but bhaktas can also mixed devotees. Mixed devotees can also they go through Krama Mukti to Vaikunta, and this kind of a description is there in other Puranas, and it is emphasized in other sampradayas also.
Okay. Listen, this is really the last thing. We do not know why BBT or whoever named the first canto Creation, right? We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, Prabhu.
Maharaj didn't answer it, and I didn't pursue it.
Yeah. Well, Prabhu, thank you. As usual, a completely amazing class. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Nothing is complete actually without Mother Gail's questions. That's what makes the class complete. At least that's how I feel. I'm sure many others feel that way too.
Me too. Haribol. Thank you, Gail Mataji. Beautiful questions like always. Sureshwar Prabhu, please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Very nice class, Prabhu, on this auspicious occasion of Ekadasi. We got to hear, a summary of 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhuji, my one question, when it comes to Sarga and Visarga, here in Canto 2 and 3, we see that Shankarshana and the Purusha avatars are involved. But whereas when we read the Adi Leela, the 7 verses, right, Prabhu, where about Lord Nityananda Ram is mentioned. But my question is, Prabhu, why in Bhagavatam, when this creation part is mentioned, nothing about Balaramji is mentioned, Prabhu, directly?
Because he's not directly involved, right? It is his expansions who are involved. So Balaramji is not directly involved in creation. So
but at least
therefore
that
there is no mention.
That connection also is not given, right, Prabhu? Like saying,
Because,
they are the expansion of.
Yeah, that is not needed at the beginning of Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam builds it up more gradually. First is the Paramatma realization, and then to trace out the source of that Paramatma is Bhagavan. So why introduce Bhagavan in the beginning only? So second canto and third canto just primarily describes the Paramatma feature in the form of Karanodakshaya Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, like that.
Okay.
I mean,
Prabhuji.
we would
Thank
never
you very much,
know.
Prabhu.
We would never know why the connection between Balaramji and it's not given. But definitely, I mean, I would say my guess would be because initially Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti Shabdate. So initially the past tense of the Purushavataras, and then Bhagavan, and then later the Purushavataras connection to Bhagavan is later established.
Okay, Prabhuji. Yeah. Yes, thank you very much, Prabhu. Yes.
So, Prabhuji, is Vasana, Utti, and Lust the same?
Vasana and Uti are the same. But there can be Sadvasanas also, good Vasanas, which are for pleasing Krishna, like Prahlad Maharaj had. You cannot call that lust. But material Vasanas, you can call them lust.
Okay. Thank you. Haribol.
Hare. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu, so much. Somebody's calling me. I can't shut it down because it's WhatsApp call. Thank you, Prabhu. Beautiful class, Prabhu. Prabhu, there is one more question in the chat box from HP Prabhu. I don't know the name. Why some pastimes in previous cantos gives some descriptions of which are sensuous?
Sensuous. Well, we have to see what the acharyas mention, why such pastimes are. Sometimes they are given to warn sadhakas about the potential pitfalls of succumbing to sensuality, and just a caution to be, beware of such traps in one's progress in the path of devotional service. Or there could be other reasons. It could just be a narration while discussing the genealogical line. There could be multiple reasons. We have to look at those particular pastimes and see if the Acharya mentioned a particular reason why that particular episode is there. So otherwise, there is no generic answer for these things. But one thing is, it is definitely whether we understand, even if the Acharya has not mentioned, but we should understand that when we study these pastimes, it will enhance our appreciation for Krishna. Maybe, but may not be in a very inconceivable way, but in inconceivable ways, it will, like for example, how an appetizer works. A common man does not understand, right? Like you go and you may feel like, oh, if I eat this, it is supposed to fill my stomach, right? How will it enhance my appetite? But certain things like, soups and other such things, even though they may fill a part of our belly, but they are made in such a way that they can enhance the secretion of our gastric juices, which can increase our appetite. but a common man may not understand. Similarly, we are common men approaching Srimad Bhagavatam. We may not understand how particular topics enhance our appetite for progress, but the chef knows. The chefs, Shukadeva Goswami, chef Vyasadev, chef Maitreya, all of them, they know. And so we can just honor it like that.
Very beautifully. So nice explanation, Prabhu. So true. Chef knows. We don't know. We just taste. Thank you, Prabhu. Prahlad Anand Prabhu, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Haribol Prabhuji. Then what pranam? I had just one question regarding Bhagavan Krishna saying in 8th chapter Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuna Loka Punarautarino Arjuna. So does repeated birth and birth cycle take place at Brahmalok also, or they live till there?
Once their piety gets over, they also come back. So there are, again, I wanted to touch on this Krama Mukti. There are some people who go there on the strength of their yogic practice. So like Krama Mukti. So Brahmaloka is also one of those 13 destinations which they touch before they attain liberation in Brahmajyoti. So such people who do not go there on the strength of their piety, but who go there on the strength of their spiritual practices, they don't come back.
I see.
But those who go there on the strength of their piety alone, once that piety gets over, they have to come back.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Prahlad Anand Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. Such a beautiful class. Just amazing. Like always, you come and everybody's like waiting for your PPTs and what you write down. And it's just so amazing. You just bring us near to Krishna. You're so much gifted by your Guru Maharaj, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, if anybody has any more questions, realizations, please go ahead. Okay, Prabhu, with your permission, I think we can end the call, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, welcome. Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, let us pay our obeisances to Prabhuji. Vancha kalapataru
Krishna Vibhyo Namo Namah.
Tantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ji.
Jai.
Praise Balaram Shakti Prabhu ki
Jai.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you so much again.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Wonderful class. So many details. Hare Krishna. Happy Ekadasi.
Happy Ekadashi to all.
Happy Ekadasi to all. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Jai Srila
Thank you
Prabhupada.
for joining today's class. We'll meet again tomorrow. We will happy Ekadasi.
Ekadashi Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
Ekadashi. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.